Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. And very good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are, from Australia, Canberra. First of all, let me express my gratitude, my thanks to my very good friend, Dr. Ubadullah, for inviting me to do this webinar. So I'm very, very thankful to not only him, but also to the entire team of IBF Net. And I am very much impressed with the kind of work that you all are doing. Right? It would be my privilege to interact with you and your members on some of the topics or issues on which, I am working on for a very long time. I've been teaching business psychology, organizational behavior, and human resource management courses in India as well as in Malaysia. Now, I am retired and I have got a good amount of time to not only play with my grandkids, but also to, think, and then, philosophize on some of the very significant issues that are concerned with all of us as human beings. So this topic, that is understanding ourselves before we understand others, I think should be of interest to many of you. All right. Yeah. All right, can you see the screen now?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Wonderful. All right, so this is the topic of my presentation, that is self-understanding. Know yourself before knowing others. What does it mean? It means that we are very good, in making our comments or observations on other people's behavior, their temperament, their attitude, and whatnot. But many times we are not so good understanding ourselves. Sometimes we have our exaggerated view on what we are. We don't try to understand how people think about us, in a different way. There may be a huge difference between what we think of ourselves and what other people think of us. So it's very important that we should develop a very more realistic understanding of ourselves. And now we are going to discuss a few psychological aspects of what do we mean by self-understanding. And let me ask, or rather show you this slide. And ask you this question. Sorry. Is this you? I am too shy. I intimidate too many people. I have trouble expressing my feelings. I'm a poor team player. People find me boring. I'm a poor listener. I rarely smile. And the list can go on. But just look at these few statements. I'm sure you all are not going to tick any of these boxes, but it is very important that we should understand our strength as well as our weaknesses. So many times we overlook our weaknesses and we focus more on our strength, but it is equally important that we should try to develop a more realistic understanding of our strengths as well as our weaknesses. So a journey, to self-understanding. Sorry. It is about how good you are in knowing your strengths and weaknesses. And not only that, what motivates you and what does not motivate you. Also, you should have a good understanding of your personality traits, your attitude and behavior, as well as a lot of biases that we carry. personal biases and stereotypes that we carry, and we are guided by those biases many times in our decision. I will discuss more about those biases in my next topic when I discuss about decision making and the role of biases that happens in that decision making process. So these are some of the things that we should know: our strengths and weaknesses. Well, how do we get? What are the motivations and what kind of motivations that we have? What motivates us and what do not motivate us? Also about our personality traits, attitude, and behavior, and also about our biases. So when we say what is self, so self is, it refers to a person's individuality or sum total of a person's what he or she can call his or her. We all know that what we are, not only in terms of our name, but also in terms of our physical makeup, or also about our lot of other things, attitude and values, what we like and what we don't like. So all these elements consist of what we call as self. Now, self has different types, it can be private self, or it can be a public self. So what do we mean by private and public self? The public self is that whatever information about you possess yourself. This is what me, not only your name, but also a lot of other things, your attitude, your values, your perceptions, your likes and dislikes are also known to others. So it is public self. People know you, maybe your friends, your family members, they know, and people around you. So this is called public self. But then there is another one which is called as private self. So this is a self which is known to you but unknown to others. All right? That is called private self. Sometimes you keep certain things, certain information to yourself, and it is known to yourself but not known to others, unknown to others. But then there is another self which we call as blind self. And this is very interesting. The blind self is that information is about me that I don't know, but others do. That also is true. I may have some very good opinion about how good I am, in terms of my speaking, in my giving lectures, but it may be possible that others don't agree with me on that, and I may not be as good as I think myself. All right, so that is called blind self. And then there is the fourth one, which is called as unknown self. Unknown self is that part of our self, which is not only not known to us, but also not known to others. It's a kind of hidden, certain things which is there, the part of our unconscious part of mind. Psychologists have talked a lot about that, and in psychotherapy, that part of the mind is always being explored by psychologists. So this is the typology which is being called as Johari window. There were two very famous psychologists, John and Harry, who gave this typology, and that's why it is known as Johari window. Right? Now, why self-understanding is important? Right? There can be a number of advantages of introspecting and sort of understanding our own self. Number one is that knowing oneself, helps knowing others. If you know yourself very well, then probably you can appreciate those characteristics, whether good or bad, in others as well. For example, if you know how helpful or generous you are, you can better perceive this trait in others. All right. So if you know yourself realistically that how good I am in terms of helping others, then probably you can see that trait, in other people's behavior. Similarly, better self-understanding promotes better interpersonal relationships. If you know yourself, your own strengths as well as weaknesses, then probably that would be a good way to sort of, make other people understand. For example, there are some people who are not good listener. They are very good speakers, but they're not very good listeners. So when other people talk, they simply don't listen to them. They simply want to talk and talk and talk and hardly listen to others, point of view. So if that is the thing, then probably that's not going to build a good relationship. If somebody is aware of that, if he understands that this is my weakness and I need to improve upon that, then of course this will develop into a better interpersonal relationships. This is another very important reason why should we try to self-analyze or understand ourselves. All right. Many people lack interpersonal skills, as I told you, listening skill, communication skills, collaboration skill, having empathy, all right? And indeed, these are some of these, what we call as soft skills, are very important when building good relationships with other people, other co-workers, in the community, in the family, anywhere. So understanding, all these aspects of the self or personality are very, very important. There's a very interesting study conducted by these two fellows, Donna, this person, Donna, all right? And what she found is that 90% of job firings happens due to poor interpersonal skills, not technical skills. 90% of the job firings happens not because of poor attitude, for example. It is because of poor attitude, not because of technical skills. Even somebody is not good at work, in terms of technical knowledge, but if he is very good in terms of his behavior, in terms of his interpersonal skills, then the chances is that he will not be fired. But if somebody is very good, technically, knowledge-wise, but very poor in terms of his attitude and behavior, then the chances are that he will get fired. Right? So that's why we always emphasize, to have very good understanding of our own, soft skills, basically, or interpersonal skills, and try to analyze that and try to develop that. So self-understanding promotes what we call as the need for develop. It promotes our understanding of how can we develop ourselves. The whole idea of analyzing self is to appreciate the developmental needs of a person and then work on developing that. Challenge of positive illusions. What does it mean? It means that many people have a false understanding that they are expert of everything, or they know everything, or they form their opinion or their decisions even based upon shallow knowledge. Okay, so that is a kind of very interesting, aspect of personality, which is called as Dunning-Kruger effect. These two people have given this term. Those who don't know that they don't know. All right, interesting. They don't know that they don't know, but they keep on, talking. They keep on giving opinion without knowing that whatever they're talking is a stupid idea. The most lacking in knowledge and skills are least able to appreciate that they lack. That's very, very true, right? That those people who lack knowledge, but they're not able to appreciate that they lack, Sometimes, I happen to talk to some of my very close friends or relatives there, and they try to talk to me in English, but unfortunately, they're not able to talk to me in English, in a good English, but they don't know that the English is not so good. And they may not talk to in English, they may talk to another language, in which they are so competent. But giving that feedback to that person would be very difficult for me because he may take it otherwise. So that's a very interesting issue and a very difficult issue, in fact, how to give feedback to somebody who doesn't know that he doesn't know on certain things. All right, so now let me talk about what is called a self-concept and self-confidence. What is self-concept? Self-concept means what we think of ourselves, right? Self-concept is formed from the law of lifelong feedback, and a strong self-concept leads to self-confidence. So self-concept means what we think of ourselves, meaning what? It's not only what's my name, but also who am I, all right? In terms of whatever knowledge or expertise or whatever skills that we possess, or whatever knowledge and skills and that we don't possess. So it is all about, developing an understanding of who we are. And how does it develop? It is developed through a lifelong feedback, right from the early childhood, when we are told this is my name, I know that this is my name, and also, through other kinds of, feedback that my parents or my siblings or my family members give it to me, what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, then I develop, that kind of understanding or opinion about ourselves through these lifelong, inputs or feedback that we received from others. And when we develop a strong self-concept in terms of the kind of things that I can do and kind of things that I cannot do. So if I am very realistic in terms of what are the areas of strength that I have, then it results into a better self-concept. For example, if you are good in playing football or soccer, all right, this is what has been told to you, not only by your friends, but also by your teachers or your coach. So you develop a kind of self-concept that I am a good soccer player, a good football player. And when you develop that kind of concept, positive self-concept, then you develop also the self-confidence, all right, that I can play, I can do that. So this is what is all about, Now, a successful person and unsuccessful person, the self-concept of a successful person is that they forgive others and remove on and move on quickly, So person who have got very positive self-concept, they're forgiving and they move on because their whole attitude or their whole, endeavor is to move forward. Whereas on the other hand, the self-concept of an unsuccessful person is that they hold a number of grudges and always get angry. So that is the difference between a successful and unsuccessful person in terms of his or her self-concept. How do we develop self-awareness or self-understanding? All right. Number one is self-rating. There are some interesting findings about what do you mean by self-awareness, It says that self-rating and others' ratings are almost similar for high performers, whereas low performers overrate their performance, If you take the case of, let's say, performance appraisal in organizations, those who are high performers, when they are rated by their supervisors, and when they rate themselves, their ratings and the supervisor's ratings almost match. But for the low performers, it's not the case. The low performers give higher ratings to themselves compared to what the others think of themselves. So there's a lot of, divergence or discrepancy between the self-rating and the others' rating of low performers. I have seen that in many of my own classroom students' performance. All right, the good students, They have got a very realistic understanding about their their performance and the marks that they're going to get from me. But this is not the case with the students who are not so good, in terms of their performance. So that's a fact. Now the question is, how should we develop self-understanding? What should we do? The suggestions are some of these. Number one, do a systematic observation about people in general. All right. You should try to look around, like a psychologist, and see other people's behavior or other people's how do they interact, how they talk, and things like that, and then relate it to yourself. You can find that how people perceive selectively, how people have, different kinds of perceptions based upon their own biases, based upon their own, attitude. And if you can understand, these kinds of subtle differences in people's behavior through your observation, it can help you understand yourself, in terms of who you are. So a systematic observation of other people's behavior in general can help you. Apply that knowledge on yourself. Example, how selective perception led me to make a wrong choice of a business that I failed. This may be the case in somebody who has been very, confident that if I do this business, or even from some students who's very confident that I can excel in this discipline or in this subject, all right? But unfortunately, that results into poor performance or failure in business because that person had a selective perception that I am going to be very successful in this business because I know what I am or what is the opportunity over there. But of course, he was biased because he was selectively perceiving, some of the things which are positive for him and ignoring, some of the negative factors which he should have considered. So this is what happens, when some people have, very selective perception, and that results into a wrong choice of decision in entering into a business. You can also develop your own self-understanding from feedback. You should take some self-assessment tests. There are a good number of psychological tests available on your intelligence, your attitude, your aptitude, all right, your values, and those kind of, tests can give you a good idea about, about yourself. So use self-assessment tests. There are a number of tests available. Consult a good psychologist or counselor who can give you these tests. All right, there are some tests also available online. You can take that and can develop, particularly the areas where you are weak and where you need to develop yourself. The feedback from self-assessment test can be a good choice. Also, feedback from people. You may also ask your friends, all right, your siblings, whoever you trust, ask them that please tell me what are the areas where I can improve upon, all right? You know me very well. Don't be afraid. Don't be, I'm not going to mind it. Just tell me what are the areas where I am not so good. So if you get that kind of feedback from your friends or coworkers or your siblings and family members, that can also be very, very, very effective. Of course, other people will hesitate to giving you very negative feedback about you, but you assure them that's not negative feedback. I'm trying to improve myself. Just try to let me know what are the things where I should improve upon, right? Also, you can go to a career guidance on counseling services. You can do that. Approach them, and they can help you, in developing your self-awareness, self-understanding. The last one is, I would suggest that it is a very good idea to do what we call as journaling or writing diaries. What does it mean? It means that uh, maybe you can start writing. Um, you write something like this. No, what are the things which I know well, and what are the things which I don't know well? If you make a list of that, what are the things in which I can do better, or I know well, or I am good at, and what are the areas where I am not good at, and I need to learn those things. So that is another way, say, if you write something like that, or if you do it daily, the psychologists say that if you want to keep yourself happy, you have to change your mindset by journaling. What does it mean? It means that every morning or every day, you should just write three things that makes you feel gratitude, feel that you are happy that you have these things. Write three things that makes you feel gratifying, that you are so lucky that you have this. And if you keep writing this for, let's say, about 221 days, they say it, then you will see that you change your mindset from a negative, developing a negative mindset to a very positive mindset. Do it every day. Three things that make you happy, three things that make you, gratified, or have gratitude for having it. Do it every day for 21 days, and you'll find a change in your mindset. If you have developed a negative mindset, it will result into a positive mindset. You will start looking at positively, around the world, around you, and your and then that will develop, a lot of good things in you. So journaling is a very, very good idea, of positive, uh, developing positive mindset. Well, after self-concept, let me talk a little bit about what is called as self-esteem. What is self-esteem? Self-esteem is the overall evaluation people make of themselves, positive or negative. So it is about evaluation. How do you evaluate, yourself? Okay. It is about when we talk about self-concept, it is about what we think of ourselves. Whereas when we talk about self-esteem, it is about how do we feel about ourselves. It's about feeling. Self-esteem is all about feeling. How do we feel about ourselves? Whether we feel positively or we feel negatively of ourselves. So that is called self-esteem. Self-esteem is what we feel about ourselves. All right. Now, positive self-esteem leads to a positive self-concept. All right. So both are interconnected, thinking and feeling. If you feel good about yourself, you develop positive self-concept. Self-respect fits the everyday meaning of self-esteem. All right. So what we call as self-esteem, in some sense, it is our self-respect. Do we respect ourselves or we do not respect ourselves? Right? That's called self-esteem. People with low self-esteem allow themselves to stay in a relationship in which they are frequently verbally and physically abused. All right? This is a very sad thing. People who have low self-esteem, they allow themselves to stay, in a situation where they are frequently verbally or physically abused. That happens many times, in the abusive work culture, in the abusive family, you know. Uh, and the person who has started disliking himself or developing low self-esteem thinks that this is my fate. They keep on, tolerating, or they keep on, uh, remaining in that situation without making any effort to get out of that situation. That's the problem with low self-esteem people. Such people even think they deserve punishment. That's the very sad thing about low self-esteem. What are the symptoms of high self-esteem? Okay, these are some of the symptoms. Number one is excitement about starting each day. If somebody has got high self-esteem, he is very excited, he is jubilant, he likes, getting out of his bed and, starting the day in a very positive note. Self-confidence for new assignments, high self-esteem also, develop a person develop self-confidence that, oh, I'm going to start a new assignment that's going to be very challenging and I'm going to enjoy that, things like that. Working up to potentials, high self-esteem also, help a person develop and use the maximum degree of potentials in his work or job or anything. Tolerating negative feedback, that's very, very interesting thing. People who have got high self-esteem, if somebody criticizes that person or gives some negative feedback, that person doesn't take it, very, get it very tensed about it, on grudges and things like that. He tolerates those negative feedback and just move on. He does not simply, hover around that feeling, for a long time, and then develop, depressions and things like that. No, tolerate negative feedback and then move on very, very quickly. Emotional lift from hard work. High self-esteem people, when they perform, do a good job, they feel very happy, and that's the kind of, emotional lift. Accepting sincerity of compliments. High self-esteem people, if you compliment them, they feel, they accept it with sincerity. And they are also able to compliment others. High esteem people never forget to say thank you, or to reciprocate, the positive things that others offer to them. So they're very good, in complimenting others, help, gratitude, and things like that. Can face up to mistakes. Yeah, that's very interesting. High self-esteem also help people to face up mistakes. If there is something which is not good, commits a mistake, he takes it, with brave heart. It's not that he gets depressed on that. So these are some of the symptoms of high self-esteem. What are the factors that contribute to high self-esteem? The childhood experiences. Being praised, right? From in childhood, if somebody is very good in mathematics and if teachers praises him, the parents praises him, other people think that you are very good in mathematics or any field, be it music, be it in the play field, all right, in the literature. If you are being appreciated and praised from the early childhood, you start liking yourself, which is self-esteem. So getting appreciation and praise helps develop high self-esteem. Being listened to is another one. That is, whatever you are talking or saying, and people not only listen to that, but also try to appreciate and even try to help you, like a good listening teacher, a good listening parent, all right? Then that also contribute to high self-esteem, rather than being, somebody who gets scolded every often, that cannot help develop high self-esteem. Being spoken to respectfully, getting attention and hugs, experiences success in sports or school, as I told you. If you are getting success in your field, then of course that contributes to your liking of yourself, which is self-esteem. Doing well, then receiving credit. What are the factors that contribute to low self-esteem? Number one is being harshly criticized. Yeah, that's very, very common. As a child, if you have been always being punished, criticized, beaten, yelled upon, then those are the contributing factors for a person to develop less liking for himself. Being ignored, ridiculed, or teased is another reason of developing low self-esteem. Sometimes it happens that, students are being teased upon, ridiculed by the friends in the class or outside the class for whatever reasons, because of certain disability, or maybe, being very weak in appearance and things like that, or different, kind of body shape. All those things, contribute to what is called as low self-esteem, because other people not only ignore, but also ridicule or even tease. Low self-esteem also, results into other people's expectations that you are going to be perfect all the time. That you are going to, for example, the parents always expect that you are going to be scoring 100% every time, or even high marks, If there is a low marks for some reason, then the parents get unhappy. Sometimes they're being scolded also, or they're, they are being criticized for not working hard, and so on and so forth. So some of these, kind of expectations to be perfect also results into low self-esteem. Many failure experiences in sports or schools, and naturally not everybody can be, Madonna or things like that, a good footballer or a good basketball player or a tennis player, all right? But any failure may also result into low self-esteem. Positive consequences of high self-esteem are so many. It results into career success, including high income. It results into good mental health. Okay? It results into profiting from negative feedback. Okay? But there are also some negative consequences of high self-esteem. Remember, that's not always everything is good with high self-esteem. Number one negative consequence of high self-esteem is attempting to maintain high status. People who develop high self-esteem, many times it has been found that they try to maintain a very high status, okay, dress up very nicely, always go for, fashionable outfits. Yeah, very conscious of their status and try to maintain that. So that is one negative consequence. The other one is that trying to attempt to do things that diminish others. Yeah, some of these people who have got very high self-esteem, they try to always, belittle others in order to feel good about themselves. And those always belittle, try to, criticize and diminish others' profile, so that she or she should be appreciated and appear to be great enough. So that is a negative consequence of having very high self-esteem. Often leads to undermining others, going back on words, silent treatment, and belittling. This is what I'm saying. That leads to undermining others' performance, others' contribution, and always trying to prove that he is the only one who is great. So that is unfortunate element of a person having very high self-esteem. We have to be aware of that also. Now, how should we enhance self-esteem? Self-esteem is related to success of our activities and interactions with people, right? Self-esteem results into if we experience success, either whether it is an exam or in any performance. Also, when you try to interact with people and they appreciate your behavior, all right, then you feel good. The other one is that if you want to develop high self-esteem or good self-esteem, you try to attain legitimate accomplishment. That is, high self-esteem will not come from fake accomplishment. If you try to cheat in the exam and get high marks, that's not going to make you happy. Maybe others would become happy because they don't know what you have done, but that is not a legitimate accomplishment. Legitimate accomplishment is that you worked hard, and then when you got a good marks, or you did a good job in your job, okay, then you feel good about it. So attain legitimate accomplishment. Set a specific goal, pursue and achieve. If you want to develop high self-esteem, be clear about what you want. Pursue that and then achieve that. Another interesting contributor of self-esteem is that you should spoil yourself. What does it mean? Practice self-nurturing. That self-esteem also comes from how good you are, in terms of entertaining yourself. Not too much, but it's a good idea that if you have done a good job at the end of the day, why not take a good cup of coffee or maybe even ice cream or go for a good restaurant occasionally. So practice self-nurturing that develops positive mindset and you can be happy about it. Okay. Another suggestion is that minimize settings and interactions that detract from your feeling of competence. All right, what does it mean? It means that you should not try to venture into those activities or areas where we are not good at. So try not to do that. For example, if you're not a good soccer player, don't go and play. Right? Because if you go and play and if you don't perform well, then you will feel bad about it. So please avoid such settings or such areas where it can develop in you a feeling of incompetence. Create a high self-esteem living space. Right? So this is about, if you want to feel good about yourself, why not try to make your living space, whether your study room or wherever you spend your time, okay, a nice place so that you enjoy over there, all right? It's comfortable, it's attractive, it makes you happy. So these are some of the ways through which you can enhance your self-esteem, okay? Success of your activities and interactions with people, attain legitimate goals, okay? Set a specific goal, pursue and achieve, practice self-nurturing, spoil yourself, minimize settings that can detract you, create a high self-esteem living space. How to deal with low self-esteem? Get professional help. If somebody is developing a dislike for himself and has developed low self-esteem, this is time to seek counseling, right? Time to get some professional help. Also, if you have developed negative feelings about yourself, go and try to see yourself from the eye of the person who loves you most. Okay? What does it mean? It means that if you are feeling bad, feeling negative about yourself, why not start thinking about how actually your mother looks at you? what she thinks about you, right? So try to see yourself from the eye of the person who loves you the most, okay? Don't allow yourself to be pushed around. That is very, very important, okay, because that contributes to low self-esteem. Don't allow yourself to be pushed around, which means never chase love, affection, or attention. If it is not given freely by another person, it is not worth having. Faham? I'm speaking Bhasha now. Can you understand it? Never chase love, affection, or attention. If it is not given freely by another person, it is not worth having. So don't allow yourself to be pushed around. Decide what is important to you. All right? Do not venture into areas where it is not important to you. Okay? Try to focus on areas which is important to you and where you can do something. Learn to say no. Okay? That is, you should always say no to those maybe demands or requests or anything which you cannot accomplish. So learn to say no. People don't regret failing, they regret not trying. So it is very important that you should try, you know. You should try. Maybe you will not be successful in one go, but try, because if you don't try, then you will regret. That's another very important suggestion. Help others. Helping others is a very good self-esteem booster. Okay? Because it is spiritual to some sense, you know. If you help others, you feel very good that you have come to help somebody in his distress, in his need, right? So even a small dose of helping others is always very good, you know, in developing self-respect, which is another definition of self-esteem. Self-efficacy, self-confidence, and self-respect. Now I'm going to talk about three things: self-efficacy, self-confidence, and self-respect, which is self-esteem. What does it mean? What is self-efficacy? Self-efficacy is ability to carry out a specific task, right? So self-efficacy relates to any specific task. If you master that task, then you develop self-efficacy. For example, if you have learned how to do computing, if you know how to run a computer, if you know how you have developed the skills of coding or anything, then the moment you feel that you have learned this thing, that means it is self-efficacy related to that task. So self-efficacy is task specific, all right? It means that you may be good in riding a bicycle, but not riding a motorbike. Or you may be good at riding a motorbike and driving a car, but not flying a plane. So self-efficacy is all about task specific. And as a person develops a number of self-efficacy, that is a number of mastery in different areas, that contribute to self-confidence. So self-efficacy is related to self-confidence as well as self-esteem. Self-efficacy contributes to self-confidence, and self-efficacy decreases self-defeating negative thinking, which is self-esteem. So if you have developed mastery in a particular area, all right, that is a contributing factor to defeat some of the negative thinkings in yourself. So self-efficacy, the lesson is that keep trying, keep learning new things, new knowledge, acquire new knowledge, new skills, all right? And that will help, in developing self-confidence. That also will contribute to your self-respect. So developing self-confidence means learning new tasks and scoring a few easy victory every day. You learn something, okay, and then that will accumulate your feeling good about yourself, and you will feel good about it, and that will lead to higher self-confidence and self-esteem. Develop a solid knowledge base, all right? The more competent you are in terms of your knowledge, and your skills, the more you will be self-confident, and that will also lead to higher degree of self-esteem. Develop and publicize new skills. All right. That is another very interesting suggestion, that when you learn something, you should not just keep it to yourself. You should try to, publicize it. Like if you are working in an organization, and if you are attending a meeting, you know certain things, you are knowledgeable, but if you don't speak in the meeting, how would other people know that you have a good knowledge on this subject matter? So try to publicize your knowledge and skill. Not too much. Don't do it overdo. Don't talk on issues and topics where you are not good at, because then you will be exposing yourself. But try to publicize your skill. If you have learned a new computer software or program, why not tell others? Let other people know that you are good at that. Okay? Show pride in your work. Also very good, that you should try to, show that I'm good at this, I have published this research paper. People should know that, show pride in your work. Other people will appreciate you, and that will contribute to your self-esteem and self-confidence. Take risks. Project an image of self-confidence. All right. Okay. So people who are good, in terms of their self-concept and self-esteem, they don't shy away from taking, difficult projects. Okay, they try to undertake difficult projects, to take the challenge, and that is a very good way of showing an image of self-confidence in others. Dress and act professionally. Yeah, that's also important, that you should not look very dirty, shabby. Okay, it's good that you should look, a neat and clean person in terms of your dress. You may not be overdoing your very fashionable kind of things, but maybe you should appear professional, in your look when you're working somewhere. Okay, so dress up nicely. That builds up self-confidence. And overcome shyness. Shyness is also an issue with some people. Okay, they are good at, and certain things, but they don't want to show that. They don't want to talk. They're a lot more introvert. And so this is something that one should be able to overcome. Overcome shyness, try to speak up, try to interact, try to show your worth, and that can build your self-confidence. So finally, summing up what I talked about self-concept, which develops from your lifelong experiences that you get from your community, from your family, in the school and elsewhere, the feedback that you receive, what are the things that people like and what are the things people don't like in you, all right? And then the self-esteem is about how good you are in terms of liking yourself, evaluating yourself, all right? And then self-efficacy is about learning new things, developing knowledge, all right? Developing more competency. So these three factors ultimately contribute to self-confidence, all right? So that's what I wanted to share with you, some of these ideas. I know that there may be not very new things for you, but possibly, some of you may like to use some of these suggestions which I have made, in terms of how to develop your self-esteem, and how to develop your self-efficacy, right, so that you can become a more confident person. So that's all what I wanted to share with you today. I hope it had helped you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hassan. It was really informative, and I believe even if we are able to implement 80% of these in our daily day-to-day life, I think we'll be better leaders, we'll be better team players, and definitely better human beings. The present a two couple of things that I would like to highlight here is that a translated version of this presentation in Bahasa will be emailed to all the participants. And of course, the recorded lecture will be shared through IBF Net YouTube channel as well. Dr. Hassan, we have a couple of questions that we can allocate 5 to 10 minutes to. And I'll try to summarize these questions because they are a little long. So here, Brother Khalid has asked us, so the impact of social media on people's personality and identity since they start identifying themselves as the characters they see on social media or the characters they play on social media. That is one, and then we have a couple of more questions that we can ask right after this.
Okay. So the question is, how does social media is impacting our self-concept or self-esteem? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Well, social media has become a very pervasive thing nowadays. I know that, and people are getting all kinds of, uh, information, all kinds of views and feedback. It depends upon a person how does he is able to cope with those uh, sort of factors that impact their own his or her own well-being or self-esteem or self-concept. A person who is strong in terms of his self-esteem, which I call as liking oneself. Okay, if he gets negative information, negative feedback on certain things in social media, he would be able to cope with it. Okay, because he is very strong. Now, unfortunately, people who are weak, have developed low self-esteem because of childhood experience. He has been always been criticized. He has been belittled, downgraded, and the person developed a negative feeling about himself or herself. Naturally, some of these information which is coming through social media will also, make that person very depressed, and that's not good for mental health. So, of course, it depends upon how good you are in terms of developing your own self-esteem and your self-confidence. You need to practice certain things, and also people around you should be aware of that. How should they nurture their children, in the family, in the community, so that they do not develop negative self-esteem, right?
Thank you, Doctor. Yeah. Thank you, Doctor. I think I mean that's a very good answer. And also, as somebody who uses social media very actively, I think people play characters on social media and people play characters in their professional life as well. So while how we perceive this is very, very important. We have to remember that these are characters and they may not be the actual or real people in their personal life. And that has happened a lot of times. When you meet these people in real life, they're going to be very, very different. So it's
Yeah.
very, very important for all of us how we perceive information and what information is useful for us and what information is not useful for us. Because in today's world, there's a lot of noise out there, be it media, the old school, or the social media in itself.
Yep.
The next question is, do you think COVID has played any negative or positive role in psychology of people, especially in the business environment? This is in the context of pre-COVID, how people used to go to office, and post-COVID, people do not really want to go to office, and some of them are also resigning because their bosses wants to come back to office, so on and so forth. I mean, we have been hearing so many stories post-COVID. So your input?
Well, the question is very, very important and relevant, but I don't think it is related to the topic on which I was discussing. It's a very general topic, and a lot of people have written about it, about the pre and post COVID, experiences and practices in organizations. There are some people who enjoy going back to the office or working full time in the office, and there are some people who would like to work in a hybrid mode. There are some who would like to still go work full time online, work from home. So there are different choices. Uh, there are certain advantages and disadvantages, of course, of each of them. People who would like to work from home, we always talk about in the human resource management about how workplace flexibility is beneficial to the employees because they can schedule their work as well as their home priorities, whether it is taking care of children or elderly in the family and things like that. Uh, but those who like to go and work in the office, they say that if they work from home, they feel lonely, all right? And that impacts their mental health. All right. So there are, pros and cons for all of these. Um, depends upon personal situation, depends upon the context in which you are, right? So it's very hard, very difficult to say what is good and what is not good. It depends upon your priorities, your choices. Of course, COVID has played a very important role. The reason that we are now using the Zoom and organizing these meetings is a contribution of COVID. The lockdown and all that we have. Before COVID, I was not even knowing about Zoom. But it's only through COVID. So there are certain gifts that has came from this pandemic. Unfortunately or fortunately. Thank you.
No, fair enough. I think, I mean, COVID has given us a lot of gifts, and a lot of innovation has also happened because of COVID. I mean, we came to realize that a virtual world can coexist. So I think, and it also depends on the context of business and how the business has been set up. I mean, a chef can't really work from home, right? At the end of the day, he has to go
Yeah,
to the
very
restaurant.
true. Very true. Unless the restaurant is closed.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, there's another question, but I don't think it's very relevant to the topic today. So I think we are good to go now. And may I request the co-host, please, to allow participants to turn on their videos so we can perhaps take a picture for social media? And this post is not going to have a negative impact on people, I'm sure. Can I please request the team to turn on their videos? Okay, should we take a picture now, Alim? Okay, I'll just take a screenshot. You already took one? All right, done. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Hassan, for your time today. And the webinar and the presentation was very, very informative. I hope we take away a lot of points from this conversation and this presentation. And this would help us improve in our day-to-day life and in our business environment, in our professional environment as well. And thank you everyone for joining in. I really hope it helped you gain some insights about how one should be knowing more about themselves before knowing others. With this, we will conclude this session and hope to see everyone in the next session, in the next webinar, which is a part of this series. We will announce the next day, the date of next webinar very, very soon, inshallah. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a very good day. Have a very pleasant evening wherever you are, if you're in that time zone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.